Do you think that since narratives are changing and we're rising as one, that the investment flows are increasing because there are more positive stories in Africa? For the most part, Africa is quite safe, stable, and growing. Do you see capital inflows increasing as well?
Yes, because we have many resources to offer. The world would not be able to move around unless they were getting a lot of resources from the continent. But now we have understood to be better at adding value, not just selling or produce, but setting up factories as well so we can process things ourselves.
Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Matthew Mensah, known for his style, voice of social issues, and being the plug for tourism, culture, and investment between Southern Africa and Ghana. He has worked with organizations tackling some of Africa's toughest challenges, from gender-based violence to hunger and health access. He's been recognized by GQ South Africa for his style. Welcome, Matthew, to the show.
Thank you for having me, of course.
Let's start at the top. I wanted this conversation because it's interesting. From this podcast, you can see how stylish you are, but that you have so much more to you. Your work with gender-based violence, your work in culture, tourism, and investment promotion between countries. I thought it was just South Africa and Ghana, but last time I saw you, you were en route to investing in Uganda. I want to understand how you bring it all together. Did you always imagine your journey would take you into PR and philanthropy?
No, far from it, because it speaks to who I am and how I was raised, because I am a blend. My mom is from Denmark with French roots and my dad is Ghanaian. I lived in a lot of different countries growing up. And after I finished education as well in London, I moved back home to Ghana. And because a lot of my friends that I grew up with was from Nigeria, it felt easier for me to do what I wanted in Nigeria. All my friends were there. It was a good plug that made me move to Nigeria. Especially at the time, I kind of were attracted more to that busyness of Lagos. I've always been more of I like when there's busyness around.
Lagos is very vibrant.
Exactly, that's the word.
You did call Ghana home. I think I met you in Accra. Did you ever feel the push-pull between Ghana and Denmark?
Well, not really, because both my mom and dad, they're very liberal. So there was never any kind of push to settle down. My dad was in diplomacy. I moved to London to study when I was quite young. And I always was comfortable just being able to fit in different cultures. I enjoyed it. Going from Ghana to Nigeria. At that time, before all this hectic social media, a lot of things were not as easy as it is now. But Nigeria formed me for sure.
It's interesting that your dad was in diplomacy, so you followed in his footsteps. You were the ambassador for tourism, arts, and culture for Ghana. Now you're the chief liaison officer for Ghana to Southern Africa. Could you tell us a little about that journey?
I came to South Africa because when I was in Ghana and Nigeria, I was doing different projects. I was part of the peace campaign in Liberia and Sierra Leone when I was really young, which shaped my journey. I was doing that with a lot of my peers in the entertainment industry to create peace awareness. A lot of times you would do interviews for CNN and stuff like that. You would do that in South Africa. South Africa was the hub for all media. Coming to South Africa, I was like, wow, things were so organized compared to back home at the time. I started to come to South Africa more often and I was like, oh, enjoy it, because you could get everything done you wanted to, but things will come around you. And at the same time, you had everything that you would need. That kind of made me take that step more than 12 years ago. A lot of South Africans had never been to Ghana. They never even thought about Ghana. And a lot of Southern Africans, not just South Africans, I was always pushing Ghana, fiercely loyal to Ghana. I enjoyed when people showed interest in, can you tell me more about this and that, and some of the clothes you're wearing, etc. Sometimes I'll go to Ghana and be bringing shea butter and black soap and so on. That was very popular already at the time. When the previous president was in government, I was asked if I had interest in taking on the role. When we started that whole program about promoting Ghana with year return and so on, that really changed the narrative when it comes to tourism and our arts industry in Ghana. Now with President John Dramani Mahama, when he took over he already had a strong vision for what he wants to do. I mean, this is his second term, so he knew exactly what he wanted to do. And things happened very fast. With that new department that was set up called the Black Star Experience Secretariat under the presidency. And when they set that up and was really pushing to promote Ghana, not just between Ghana and US, but anywhere in the world. So that gave me that opportunity to join and be part of that, which I'm extremely proud of. And it's just been a natural succession of what I was doing anyway, promoting Ghana.
I really love that. The Ghana brand, the year of the return, went beyond a push to the US because the year of the return was positioned as diaspora, coming back, US, the Atlantic slave trade, etc. I was very intrigued by Ghana years before I moved there. I went maybe for the first time in 2012 or 2015, something like that, for work. Then again in 2020 or 2021. And then, eventually moved in 2022 to Ghana. I really enjoyed my experience, but there were lots of people who did not know about Ghana. They knew about Ghana, but they never visited. Anytime you want to explain a new country, the best way to do it is to visit. People get interested in the outfits, clothing, the culture around shea butter. And then they're like, how do I invest? Because Ghana is such a big market. It makes sense. You went from branding to tourism and now investments in Ghana, Southern Africa, and the whole continent. Tell us a bit about the Black Star experience. What do you hope people experience when they go to Ghana?
I think the vision of our president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, from the moment he took over, he already had everything ready to what he wanted to see to be achieved. And one of those things were having a department under the office of the president focused on pushing the interest of Ghana within the creative industries, arts and culture. He has always had a strong passion for the creative industry and youth, which is shown in the government demonstration. There's a lot of young people previously in the industry of the creative industries and now have positions in the government. They have taken on with such a passion and dedication, which we're seeing the results already now, and it's quite unheard, not even a year in, and we have so many new results that's happening, and it's also because of the interest in ensuring we are telling our story about Ghana, not only to the ones Americans in diaspora, but anywhere there's Ghanaians. We should all be knowing about Ghana so we can be able to tell what is Ghana, what does Ghana mean to you if you are living in Turkey or if you're in Japan or whatever. If you're Ghanaian, you should be able to tell the story and be part of promoting the country. We all have an interest in our next generation is doing as good as possible. And that is why all of us being able to, of course, ensure that we attract more investment to the country. It's not a secret that previously we have been we lost out on the fact that, we were importing so much, which made our things expensive. It was very expensive to live in Ghana because we were importing everything. But now we have changed the narrative where we're trying to produce more ourselves, and you can see some of the policies that's already been taking place. That makes it not only more conducive for doing business in Ghana, but also for Ghanaians to do business that can assist in making the country more better.
Having lived in Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and other countries, do you see Africa moving towards a more united cultural identity?
I think COVID changed a lot in the world. Just before COVID, everybody was expecting Africa to do the worst. The horror stories that was coming out and, Africa is going to be going upside down and so on. And then in the end, we were the one who were doing the best, And one thing that, if anything, we learned that food security is important. We're sitting on so many of the resources that is needed, not only for ourselves, but across the world. And that I think that changed a lot in the different policies in a lot of different countries to make sure that we started to trade with each other and take down barriers. If I'm in Zambia and you want to buy something from Nigeria or vice versa, why do I have to be trading through another country for a product that is originally from the continent? It made no sense. And with AFCFTA, we have started to bring down barriers. That is something you should be paying attention to because some of those policies that's being rolled out now is for the next generation, and I think it's a very exciting time when it comes to trade across the continent. Next, I hope it will be easier to travel across the continent. I travel a lot, and sometimes you have to literally fly to Europe to change flight to come back to another country because it's faster. It was this really crazy
Absolutely.
structure of country.
I'm Rwandan, as you know. I've lived in Kigali for many years. I remember going to Morocco for work, and I had to go from Kigali to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Casablanca. When I was in Ghana, I went to Senegal, and it took me 14 hours
Yeah.
to get there, right? I had a colleague in Nigeria, not in Lagos or Abuja, another part of Nigeria. She had to go to Addis, go back to the east to meet me in Senegal. You have to break down these barriers of trade and travel. Do you think, because you deal with so many investors, the perception of Africa is changing, the narratives are changing,
Well,
the perception, like Africa is open for business and that we're actually a partner?
I think so, especially with social media, we are able to tell our own stories much better. At that time, somebody from CNN or whatever was doing a one story about some country, we will all be celebrating for weeks. Those days are over. It's all held us back by consuming media stories from international broadcasts and so on. We have just been forced to accept stories that were not really living up to the truth around us. Before, when we saw things about Africa, it was always bad stories, and that also resulted in we were not very good at knowing what was happening in other countries. I remember sometimes when I've been doing things and 10, 15 years, and I'll be talking about, I'm going to Liberia. They're like, is it safe? I said, what do you mean? Are they not fighting? I'm like, the Civil War ended 15 years ago. Even me going to Rwanda, people are like, were you not scared? I'm like, about what? Yeah, about something will happen. I was like, do you know, Rwanda is literally the safest country in Africa, one of the safest countries in the world, because people don't hear about it at all. That's what I think now we have become much more proud of being Africans. It's much more accepted for us to go out and celebrate ourselves and wearing our own traditional clothes. I remember when I first came to South Africa those years back, sometimes I'll be wearing some of my traditional clothes like I'm wearing now. It's like the up and down, as we call it. And you come out wearing something like this, and people are like, oh, wow, I like the colors. What are you celebrating? And you're like, that is Tuesday.
My hand up, I'm one of those people. When I was working in Ghana, my Ghanaian or West African colleagues would come to the office dressed. I'd always be like, you look so lovely. But for me, I wear my African outfits on a special occasion, a wedding, a baby shower, maybe brunch with the girls, but not to the office. Living in West Africa, they really embrace everything. Their heat, their clothing, music, food, everything is very Ghanaian. And I enjoy that. There's a certain pride that comes with it. This is ours. And this is what we make.
And I think especially in West Africa, not just in Ghana, but in Nigeria, Senegal, etc., wearing your like up and down, there's a way of wearing it in a business sense with cufflinks and so on is tailor-made, and that makes it formal wear as well, and why would it not? Why would you have to dress into Western traditional clothes for you to be looking formal? That makes no sense when you're on the continent. The way times have changed now, we see international companies trying to copy some of our prints and so on, using it for several different brands like H&M to Gucci, and literally everybody has been trying to copy some of our things. That shows us what a rich culture and heritage we have. Before, people were not quick to say, I'm from this country. But now, people are proud of where they're from, and it's something that you can see. 2 years back, people would not be falling over themselves to come to Ghana and Nigeria in December. Now it's one of the hottest destinations, whether in Lagos or Accra. This came from us showing ourselves, telling our own story. That influx of tourists from other African countries, the diaspora or friends of Africa, was always exciting to see. Which sectors, when investors come to you, do they ask most about? Which sectors, which countries, what's exciting to investors in Africa? A lot of times it's about what kind of country it is and what they are working with. I have been involved in this picture. A lot of times people come, we wanted to buy gold and so on like that, and that's really not, because, I think when you're younger, that's fair. But it's you should really leave it to those who are seasoned in that, because it can go horrifically wrong if you don't know what you're doing. People think that it's just easy, but it's not at all. Development projects, a lot of companies want to do different PPP projects or BOT. Hospitality is a big industry because with tourism opening up, one of the things we learned in Ghana is that when you're opening up and you're doing, as we did in Return and Continue, you sometimes will be found out when people come down. Maybe the first time they're, okay, give you a pass on, but people are not finding it funny coming down and the AC is not working. And you're like, okay, it'll be working on Tuesday. People want to go on holiday in comfort, especially if they're paying top dollar, which you do when you're coming to a lot of the countries on the continent in West Africa. Hotels are quite expensive compared to, for example, because they have a hospitality industry that's been cultivated for decades. You have to be focused on doing your part. And when it comes to hospitality, one of the key things is service, and where, again, in Southern Africa, they very good with hospitality, very good with customer service. It's natural to them. It's not really been that natural because hospitality have never always been done for a long time has been seen as a career, which is something that has been changing and something that needed to change. And otherwise we will not be able to give people that value that they pay for when they come and visit our country.
Charlemagne the God, a popular radio host in America, was in Ghana a few years ago. He loved Ghana, but the one critique he gave was he waited for a meal for 4 hours. Coming from Rwanda, we have come a very long way with customer service. We had to be very intentional about it, having customer service campaigns, tourism and hospitality schools, and changing that mindset. A lot of people are very proud. In the beginning, people were like, I'm not going to be a waitress, a server. When we come to university, it was seen as something, not a job they wanted, also something temporary. But after a lot of advocacy, there's been mindset shifts. There's a value chain in tourism and hospitality. You can start as a waiter. You can become a food and beverage manager of a 5-star hotel. You can become a chef, a sous chef. There are different opportunities that come with it. I do think there's an intentionality that has to come with it. East Africa, just like South Africa, especially Kenya and Uganda, were ahead of us and we had to learn from our neighbors. In Rwanda now we have tourism schools, so I'll be happy to put you in touch with them. Some have come to Ghana for a site visit. Africa has to rise together.
Yeah. One of the big changes we have started to learn from other countries, especially when it comes to choice, a lot of times we would be looking at international skill sets training within choice, but now we are focusing on content as well. You will send people from Ghana to learn from hospitality schools here. They will follow Joburg tourism around and so on. They will do things with Rwanda and Kenya. With tourism in each country, you have to use what you have around you. Our tourism is completely different to South Africa. So you have to focus on different things, different experiences to promote. The key thing for the continent, especially after COVID, is to ensure that we want to make sure that when tourists come from abroad, we want to keep them on the continent. If you have been to Ghana, then we should encourage you should try to visit Kenya. Kenya has things that we don't have. Make sure, even on the way back, flying with Rwanda Air, before you get to Ghana, stop in Rwanda and spend 5-6 days doing the gorilla trek and so on. There's a lot. That's where we need to get, where there's a much stronger connection between the countries, so we can ensure that people don't come to Kenya and say, "Oh, I've been to Africa." No, you have not been to Africa. You've been to Kenya. You've been to one country in East Africa. There's so much more. Each country is so different.
Each country is different.
Exactly.
Ghana has so much to offer, so many opportunities to collaborate. Do you think that since narratives are changing and we're rising as one, that the investment flows are increasing because there are more positive stories in Africa? For the most part, Africa is quite safe, stable, and growing. Do you see capital inflows increasing as well?
Yes, because we have many resources to offer. The world would not be able to move around unless they were getting a lot of the resources from the continent. But now we have understood to be better at adding value, not just selling produced, but setting up factories as well, so we can process things ourselves. In Ghana for a long time, we would just sell cocoa instead of the chocolate. Those are things our president is putting in place. Same with our gold policies. It's not business as usual. Ghana is open for business, but it's not business as usual. There's a lot of policies in place.
Yeah, no longer extractive partner.
Exactly. Now it's made that if you're coming to do business in Ghana, it should be business benefiting Ghanaians and not just one-way traffic out.
Is the work you do promoting Ghana or South Africa?
Well, it's both. Doing what I'm doing is based as well on context and the relationships. And those ones has been cultivated over many, many years. And that is through different partnerships and friendships. And because you also would have a love for that country that you're in. The same as well when I was doing between Rwanda and Ghana, and I was coming to Rwanda a lot. I really loved being in Rwanda and being in Rwanda. When you go back, just from very basic human pride and interest in telling a story, you will be telling people, oh, this is how Rwanda is. You will be comparing. There will be things in Rwanda that will make an impact on you. Wow, if you could do that in Ghana. I remember I was there one Saturday. I was like, okay, so today what are we doing? She's like, no, we're not doing anything. It's the cleanup day. I was like, excuse me? Yeah, we all have to go out and clean up. I was like, are you okay?
Did you clean the gutter? Did you slash some grass? What did you do?
I just picked up some areas around the hill. I was just there to be part. I wanted to experience it. I was trekking and people were out to clean up, sweep.
Yeah.
One thing that I loved was that people have learned to show pride in their surroundings. One thing that really rubs me the wrong way, whether I'm home or if I'm in Ghana or in UK, whatever, I hate it when people just roll down the window and throw out litter. It makes me so angry. I'd love that you learning to wait with your litter, to put in your bag until you are by the dustbin and so on, because it's just terrible to see. And I love seeing that it's so clean. Another thing with Rwanda, when I was there with my friends for MBA Africa, we were landing in Kigali and driving towards a hotel, and my friends were like, there's something about this place. I can't put my finger on it. There's something, it's the silence. In Rwanda, there's no horning and up and down, where if you are in Accra, people could not drive in traffic if there's no horns. In Rwanda, you never hear people horning. It's incredible. It's very quiet. It's almost like it's just you're just driving around in a electric car or something, but it's very quiet, which is quite nice. And of course, being able to feel the security, that is one of the attractions, especially if you're coming from some countries where there's a lot of crime. You go to a place like that, Ghana is very safe, working hard to ensure it stays like that.
There's an African influencer who was in Rwanda recently. She was giving an update about her experience in Rwanda and said something about the silence. She said, Rwanda is so silent. I'm paraphrasing here, but she thought it was unsettling. In my mind, I was like, you're just not used to peace. That's peace, right? It's missing the noise. It's just peace. You can hear the birds. You don't have to go to Nyungwe, although Nyungwe is a great plug to bird watching and all of that. But it's very peaceful. It's peaceful. It's clean. It's also intentional. I was 13 or 14. We had a guest from abroad visit us, and I just threw out the water bottle in the car. She was not happy at all. My mom was in the car watching this lady tear at me. She tore me down. And she's like, why would you dirt in such a beautiful country? Do you know how lucky you are? And that always stuck with me when we became really vigilant on Umuganda, a monthly cleaning, a community session. That always stuck with me. I was like, we need to be intentional, export this knowledge and value. It takes everybody, even the visitor. They come, put them to work. Yeah.
No, that's very true. When I've been in Rwanda, it feels like Accra on a Sunday where there's not so many cars and it's quiet. People are in church, so it's more quiet. That kind of vibe. When I was living in Lagos on Saturday and Sunday, it's quiet, relaxed. You can move around quickly. Another thing I want to say, I think the reason why the narrative has changed, and we got a lot of people coming in to invest, is of course, there is always be countries like any continent that is not doing as well as others. You have different conflicts. But look at Europe. You have one of the most hectic wars between Russia and Ukraine, which is really tragic and horrific. On the continent now, we are seeing a lot of people getting opportunities to be part of making changes. For example, again with social media, we have created so many entrepreneurs from social media alone. Look at my friend Wudemeyer, who's been one of the greatest storytellers, one of the biggest YouTubers out there, telling those stories. For YouTube, it starts with people say, can I go to that country? Is it conducive for business? That comes from the stories you're being fed. Oh, I hear a lot about Ghana. Wow, this looks beautiful. I didn't know that. Maybe it's possible for me to do X, Y, and Z. Like, for example, now next month, I'm taking consortium to Ghana that wanted to buy cocoa, but not buy cocoa alone. They wanted to set up a factory to process it. Those are the kind of things we want to see, not just in Ghana, but in other countries as well. And it will be even greater if it's ourselves that are doing the trade between the countries. For me, it's a great source of pride to take Africans to other African countries to do things there. That was how I started. When I first started those peace campaigns with other Africans that came together and wanted to be part of doing peace. Some of those friends, to this day, especially from Nigeria, we were together doing those peace campaigns. It was voluntary work, but you had that feeling of you were part of making changes in Africa and the world. And it was incredible at that period when you were in Liberia and Sierra Leone, and it was dangerous and you were still a thrilling period.
No, absolutely. Agencies like the AFCTA will only make doing trade and business amongst Africans easier. But we still need the likes of you to bring those trade missions to life because it is built on relationships. I really want to switch to the other side of you, which I know you're passionate about, social issues, especially gender-based violence in South Africa. Every time I look at your stories, it's heartbreaking. Recently, there was a young girl found dead by her boyfriend, her husband. And what's sad is that it's a common story, right? How did you get into this line of work? What can we do as the common viewer?
When I first moved back home, especially in Nigeria, I started to be involved with orphanage projects, visiting different orphanages and so on. When I was in Liberia, with some friends doing campaigns with Omotola and Genevieve, Ramsey Noah, and different artists like Two-Face, I was introduced to the issue of gender-based violence in conflict countries. Women and children are the biggest victims and hardest hit. Seeing some women rescued from camps in the bushes for years and coming to some of those shelters that we were part of, working with United Nations World Food Program. These women come in after they've been in captivity for years with some rebels. They were coming into those camps and had small children with them. And those children, mind you, were a result of them being in captivity. Those children were a result of rape and giving birth. When you saw them, I'd never seen people look lifeless, that all the spirit in them had literally been sucked out. I was so shocked, and it made a big impact on me. It was in Liberia that I started to take my religion more serious. I'm Catholic, but I wasn't really going that much to church. It was only when I started to move to Nigeria, and a lot of my friends and family friends, they would be going to church on Sunday, and they were always like, come, go to church, let's go. When I came to Liberia and I saw what was going on, I went to one service, the things kind of clicked for me. I had that moment. I just want to do things afterwards. It's different when you experience something life-changing and feel, wow, I can actually do something. A lot of times, I think we don't value what we are capable of. And a lot of times, people reach out to me and say, oh, you're doing ABC. How can I do it? I'm just one person. But I started like that. I started with, that's the same spot than everybody else. And when I came back to Nigeria and I continued campaigns, I wanted to do something for women and children. I started my Orphanage Africa campaign, which was focused on women. When I came to South Africa, a lot of my female friends would tell me that they, at some time in their life, would have been victims of GBV or rapes. That made a big impact on me. And I had a chance to be involved with work here on the ground. It was just a natural thing. And then I had a chance to be involved with an orphanage, a shelter for young girls. 11 years ago, I've been with that shelter since then.
I love that you found your faith and this cause at the same time. The last time I saw you in Joburg, it was a Sunday, and we were trying to find time to meet up, and he said, I have to go to church first. And then I have to go to the orphanage. I think something was happening, and I wanted to come with you, but at the time wasn't working out. How do we get involved with your organization or others? Domestic violence, gender-based violence, rape are big issues, especially in South Africa. How do we get into prevention mode?
It's a good question. I'm glad that it gives me an opportunity just to get into that topic, because First of all, gender-based violence is quite simple. Sometimes people are like, oh, it's great to see a guy being passionate about activism against gender-based violence. I'm always like, really, it should be something very basic. There's not a man who doesn't have a mom. Majority of us will maybe have a sister, aunt, a daughter, etc. You should not feel that special because you're doing something basic as a man, protecting women, not only women in your life, but women in general. You want to make sure that you're part of creating a safer environment, your own daughter, for your mom, for your sister, and so on, wherever they are. And that goes from doing things within your own circle. Some need more change than others. People have to understand the different levels of gender-based violence. It's not just physical, it's also emotional. As a female, you're walking through a street and people are doing whistle sounds, all those things. It stops women from, I know women who doesn't feel comfortable going for a run because of their physical attributes. And just if you're in a toxic relationship, can be also as hurting as if it was physical. What I'm trying to say is that gender-based violence, simple. Either you are against it or you're by default for it. You can't sit on the fence on gender-based violence, and that's why, for me, having seen the result of gender-based violence and also working with young girls who has been abused from a very young age, apart from being incredibly infuriating, I don't want to say on a social platform what I would do if I could catch any of these people. When you're sitting with a child that's been abused, having a chance to do something, create that confidence again in not only themselves, but also in just have a confidence in being around men and not being scared, because sometimes it will even stop them from getting a proper school education because they're afraid of being around males in school. I was part of doing this different work. We used to do a lot of marches and panel talks, but to do something strong and meaningful, you have to break that cycle of violence starting from a young age. You cannot go out and talk to someone who is 40 years old and say, you should not beat your partner. If you don't know it by then, it's difficult to change that mindset compared to someone very young, especially our boy child. That's where the focus. We actually worked on creating a board game during COVID. So it's been taking us 2.5 years. We created this board game we launched last year, which is for not only young children, but also adults. It's something that we encourage companies as well to.
Board game? Can you show us the board?
Yeah.
No to
It's called
violence.
No to Violence.
Jermaine.
It's from our organization, Act Africa, Awareness for Child Trafficking. We deal with child trafficking, gender-based violence.
Where can people get this?
People can buy it online. Normally, we sell it to schools because you sell it in bulks. You're talking with different toy store outlets to have it in there so people can come and buy it one by one. Our organization stands for Awareness for Child Trafficking, but also Awareness for Child Trauma. We do campaigns all over the continent. Unfortunately, gender-based violence is so hectic. I was in Botswana. They also have the problems with gender-based violence. It's sad because sometimes people have been desensitized to it. GBV is just a word for them. They don't see the people behind it. There's an organization called Women for Change, SA, and they will always post notification about a woman that's been murdered. I'll always post it. Sometimes when I post things from other cases we work with, people would not really comment, but then I'll post later in the day, maybe I'm wearing a new suit and people are like, oh, nice color, whatever. And I'm like, this is how desensitized we are. Things that really should be more important are not important anymore. That's also one of those things with social media. People just want dopamine. They want just nice things on social media and not use it to carry more important messages.
Absolutely. I see your posts, and whenever I see them, I get so sad for the young woman who has lost their life or has been affected by gender-based violence. I love the work you do in the communities, but how do we change this? It's not just a post, it's somebody's life. How do we change this? I love that you talked about the boy child starting at a young age with mindset shifts, because young men see it growing up in their household with their parents. But what do we do for those already grown and acting a fool? Is it just a lost cause?
It has to be a broader call to action. For example, look at the case with Rwanda. before you had that policy around not throwing waste, people would be throwing on the floor, whatever. Now it's so in depth in people's mind that you would feel terrible if you took and threw it. And even if you saw someone throwing something, you would say, "Excuse me, we need to be like that with gender-based violence. It has to be something so strong in everybody that even around our peers, you break it down." A lot of times, that's how you enable those things. If you're around your peers and see someone doing something that is out of bounds, you should be able to call it out. And sometimes people are saying, "Oh yeah, gender-based violence is bad," but when they see a friend doing it, then like, "Oh, I didn't want to disturb their relationship." But that's where it starts. You have to stand up for it.
Naming and shaming is a great approach. I wanted to have this conversation because it's not common to see a man of your stature talking about gender-based violence and investments and fashion and culture. That's why I wanted this chat. Putting Africa on the map is what this podcast is all about, highlighting people doing amazing work in different facets of life. So I wanted to thank you for coming, more importantly, for all the work you do. Do you feel like sometimes there is a clash between your world in fashion, investments, faith, work with nonprofits? Do you feel pulled in one direction or go together?
Yeah. But I think as you grow older, you decide what is more important. When I was younger, if you look at my Instagram, I'll be much more focused on coming out and say, "Wow, this is the dynamite outfit. I must have some nice picture today for Instagram." Now, that's not the focus. You find yourself focusing on other things. I knew I would have to tone up down posting fashion-related outfits. But it doesn't change how I dress. I still dress the same. I just don't have the same focus. This is also how you always. I always had a decent style from my dad, my peers, especially my friends that grew up in Nigeria. A lot of Nigerians that have a strong fashion sense, and I benefited from that growing up with so many of my close friends being from Nigeria. I would never tone down how I dress to fit into something else that is not. For me, if I'm wearing a suit, I wear a suit in a certain way because I know how a suit should sit and be tailored. It's more about myself feeling great when I'm wearing clothes. It's also about respect for your environment. If I'm coming to a certain place, if you are inviting me to some event, I want to show respect to not only you as my friend and the occasion. Somebody's inviting you to some birthday dinner or whatever, and people come up in jeans and t-shirt, and you're like, "Come on, seriously, you are coming out to a nice restaurant. You don't even make a little effort." It's the bare minimum. That is just about showing respect. For me, it's also about trying to be a gentleman. A gentleman is a lot of different facets, and you will never be a gentleman. There's always things you can learn how to look after yourself, even going and make sure that it's not okay just to put on a nice outfit if you don't know how to look after yourself. Maintain yourself, go and grooming, cut your nails and do manicure and all this kind of things. All those things, small things, adds into being a presentable man, and it would help you. I also do it as well because that I know there's a difference between rocking up if I'm traveling in shorts and flip flops compared to if I'm coming in a nice up and down. You're more
differently. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing worse to meet someone who's like, I should have put on something nice, decent today, and you're meeting someone that could be of interest to you in regards to what you're doing at work. So I try to do things where I am comfortable with what I'm trying to push. But regards to my faith, I mean, by no means, it's not like I'm in church every Sunday. Sometimes I have periods where I really make it every Sunday, no matter where I am. Sometimes I'll be lacking, and then I'll be like, okay, I need to be going to church. It doesn't mean that I don't pray every day. I pray every morning. Sometimes I just don't get it to church. You're not doing it for anybody else. You're doing it for yourself. There's no need to be lying. So, oh yeah, I'm going to church every day. Because today I was not in church. I wanted to have been to church. I'm looking to go during the week instead for midweek mass. Nice way of starting the week when I go to church on Sundays.
So in terms of ritual, what helps ground you? You're taking on a lot. The GBV philanthropy work is heavy. And the work with the Ghanaian government, investments, there's a lot of expectation. So how do you center yourself? What are some of the rituals that help ground you?
People think I'm a complete social butterfly. I'm one of those persons that I am a extrovert, introvert. I can be at home. Like this weekend, I've been home the whole weekend and I had such a nice weekend. I love being my own company. I'm very comfortable being in my own company. If you drag me out, I'll be the last to leave. I'm social, but also I like my own space. It's not difficult for me either way.
So, Matt, this podcast is about living fully, talking to builders, people building Africa in different dimensions and what they need to do to live fully. Your work is one aspect, your faith is another, your purpose is another. What does living fully mean to you?
Well, it ties into what you were saying before regarding your rituals, making sure you can take time to do things that is making you happy. And so, for example, for me, regarding work, it means a lot of traveling. I love traveling. Sometimes when people call me and they're calling me from, oh, Matthew, can we get to Kenya on Tuesday, Sunday, Monday to this meeting? I'm always like, yeah, let's go. I love Kenya. I love traveling. I'm happy at the airport. My routine is easy when I check in and I'm ready to go. Do things in life that you are passionate about and you love. Then it doesn't feel like work. That's why sometimes people call me if it's involving my shelter or one of the projects, I'm just chilling the weekend and having sporadic calls on things for the week. Enjoy life. And when I say enjoy life, it means experience some of the greater things that life can offer. I like to do things that have an impact on me as well. Whether it be something within culture, maybe sometimes it can be for fantastic dinner experiences. I love being in South Africa because there's so much on offer, especially within arts, culture, and sightseeing. 2 hours from here, I can go on one of the most amazing safaris in the world, visit some of the best galleries and so on. So there's so many things to offer. And that's the thing as well, Africa have so much to offer that I don't really travel out of the continent anymore. I'm more on the continent that, sometimes when I think about when I was last in the US, I was like crazy because I would, and because I have Ghanaian passport, I have a Danish passport, so I can literally travel anywhere in the world without visa. But I hardly travel out of the continent because I'm so, I know people like one of friends of mine, Chippe Kalafeng, was one of the greatest, not only in Africa, around branding and marketing. He's incredible, a role model. He has been to every single country on the continent. By traveling, you gain so much knowledge and added experience that will boost who you are as a person. That's why, he's one of the most interesting people I consider talk with, because when you talk about something that he experienced in Mali or Burundi and so on, I'm always like, wow, I want to experience that. He knows about politics from every country. He knows about diplomacy. He knows about trade to become your own living lexicon. Wikipedia, that is very appealing. When you're to Durban for 2 days, when I come back, I feel nicer because Durban is such a fantastic city. But we are on a continent where other people are saving up for years and years visit. People right now are busy. There's some people right now, as you speak, they're, okay, 2 years from now, we are going to go to Rwanda and experience Gorilla Trigger or whatever it is. It's around the corner from us. I must admit, I'm quite hectic. When I do things, I do it in a big way. I don't drink at home. You will never see me come home from a long day and say, oh, I need a whiskey or something. No. A lot of times, if I'm going for dinner, I don't even drink. But if I go out, I'll be drinking. One time I took a break for 4 years without having any alcohol.
I was about to say, I know you're a non-drinker.
Sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to drink today. And then I don't drink. I don't smoke cigarettes and so on. I'll only smoke cigar, which is, I love my cigars. In that way, there are certain things you just have to feel that, okay, I'm treating myself to that. Years back, I'll be spending way too much time on, I'll work hard and I'll play hard. And when you play hard, you're spending a lot of money. Now, I would rather go for 3 days, especially in a place like South Africa or Rwanda, where you can take Rwanda Air literally everywhere. And there's some really good prices. Sometimes I'm looking at people out in the clubs spending 30,000 Rand. You could have gone to, one of the best resorts and spend 5 days, come back, and you still have change. Sometimes it's about making decisions on the things I want in my life? Am I willing to sacrifice something else? Life is expensive. You're going to be spending money as soon as you go outside your door. But it's about preparing for it. Take advantage of what your country is providing for you, and sometimes we'll be really good at complaining, but we are not good at trying to make the basic effort to see what is there of opportunities for me. Sometimes people, oh yeah, I cannot do this, and there's no opportunity, but a lot of times you are not taking the chance. South Africa is one of those passports that you can travel to most countries without visa, even before you could travel to Ireland or whatever. If you're Ghanaian, you can travel to South Africa and do getting some of the best certificates add value to what you want to do. Even sometimes you don't think about, oh, if I'm in Rwanda, I can add value from what I have learned in Rwanda, the way that things are doing there. It'll be appreciated in Kenya or Ghana. Sometimes people want skill sets where it becomes natural to you because this is how you've been raised around how you do things. And you go to a country like, wow, you don't do it like this. And then you realize people want me more because I have certain skills.
What do you value? What value can you add to yourself and to your country? Matt, I can't let you go without asking, are you in a relationship? Are you single? What is going on?
I have a daughter. She lives in London with her mom. I always wanted to settle down. But before, I didn't feel mature. I've been in some long relationships. Sometimes it's just because you were not compatible. Sometimes I was not mature enough at the time. I would always prefer to be in a relationship. It's always nicer if you're in a relationship, if you're in love with someone and that person is in love with you. And that's why I'm not in a relationship right now. I was seeing someone not long ago, but I think that, I think maybe both of us were not putting the effort in that was needed for it to be working out. Because honestly, no matter how busy you are, you should be able to make effort for some of those things that makes you happy as well, even in your private life. For me, it's about not having found the right one. There's two things. Are you thinking of someone you could see yourself settle down with and marry, or someone you could accommodate because you want to be with someone? It's two different things. Sometimes you could be with someone where you are happy being around, you're perfect, but if you now sat down and say, is this someone to marry? You'd be like, maybe not. You're not compatible in a marriage. I'm single now. Would rather be unsingle, if there's a word like that.
Matt, it takes a lot of self-awareness, right? We love a self-aware king. That's great. Don't get into anything. Relationships take time and effort. Nobody's too busy for a relationship, but you do have to put effort into it. Last question. For everybody watching, what is one takeaway? What is one thing you hope they'll remember from this conversation?
It's about what we are capable of doing, us Africans, showing interest and dedication. Me and you talking, I mean, you are from Rwanda, I'm from Ghana, and we have met each other across the continent. We are friends, but also because a lot of times we will be meeting each other at the airport in Kenya. The importance is communication. I'll congratulate you on your platform. I think it's going to be really fantastic. You were talking about Charlemagne before, but I think I should call him and alert him because you're going to come to his spot soon. Communication is key. Look at what you've been able to bring out. To add to things much bigger than just me and you. You could maybe get a call from someone and say, oh, wow, you know what? We would like to be involved with this gender-based violence campaign you're doing. How can we work together, for example, and somebody say, oh, you know what? We have interest in doing something in this country or whatever. And that is what it's about. To be able to use all the resources we have as Africans and take advantage of it, because we have so many benefits around us now that you're doing your podcast. With the amount of people not only on the continent, but outside. When you called me and said, oh, I'm doing this podcast, I was like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you? Because you know so many people, you have been in so many countries. You have to be willing to get up and take the chance. When you move to Ghana, you have to be able to do something. Things are not just going to come and somebody knock on your door and say, you have to do something for yourself. That is the most key thing, that use the tools you have to make something out of yourself. Be better, be more conscious about your circle of friends. I think as well sometimes people having friends just for having friends. You have to be more, and I'm not saying this person, but you have to use your friends in a good way, as in, see, what can I do with my friends? What can we do together, lifting each other up? Sometimes We're not good at that. We're just friends having tea, talking about whatever. But you should be trying to build each other as friends, support each other. A lot of times you will see who your friends are when you start up a business and see how many is going to support you. That's when you know you're real friends.
And I know you're a true friend because when I messaged you, I was very shy about it. This is not really my thing. I'm not a host, but I know so many cool people doing interesting things that I wanted to highlight. I said, it's an inaugural season. I don't know how it will go. Do you have some time? And you're like, of course, I'll make the time. And you really have made the time. I'm not sure when we'll air this, but we're filming on a Sunday. I know Sunday is sacred to you. Thank you so much for showing up for me.
Thank you.
Showing all the work that you do.
Doing this here is a fantastic day of my son. One of the things great about Africa is we are so different. You being East African, me being West African, you work in a different way than I do. I'm typical West African. So you were like, when we spoke 2 months ago or something, you're like, which day? I'm like, what? In 2 months, you're like, Matthew, give me a day. So it's like, oh man. Then you send me a message, gave me 3 different days to choose from. I said, okay, fine. 15th of September or whatever. And then you're like, what time? I'm like, I don't know. How would I know what I'm doing in 2 months? You're so organized. You had a vision for what you wanted to do. I'm so happy to be part of it. You're fantastic. I really appreciate it. It's a privilege to be around things that mean something for your friends, especially someone you love and care about. So I'm just happy to be here, you know.
I could tell I was just but that's my nature. I'm very organized. I want to show up for other people. I don't want to waste your time, do my research. We're friends, but I learned a lot about you doing research. I want the audience to get the best of you. I wanted us to be organized.
If you want to do something and have a vision for something, it's the tenacity that'll get you to that result. You know what I mean? You know, because otherwise nothing will happen. If you just get back to him at some point, you have to be pushing for those things that you want to achieve. You are the best example. I'm so happy.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt, for your time today.
No, thank you.
All the work that you do for yourself and for Africa and for everybody who benefits from you. I love being your friend, and thank you for making the time for me today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Bye.